on the priest into the clown druid, which is a big deal because that is not a fun matchup for the priest. It's not unwinnable at all. It's not as bad as warlock, but it is a not fun matchup to play.
Absolutely. And already Encanter's Flow looks like a very obvious keep here. I just wonder about whether you already feel confident because you're running so many spell damage minions that TRueBee should keep the Cram Session. I don't necessarily think so though, because when you do keep Encanter's Flow, that's kind of like one slot earmarked in your hand that is not a lab partner, not an Imprisoned Phoenix, which you absolutely do need to really get the deck going quickly.
Looks like he kept all three of them.
Wow.
Definitely a case for not keeping the Wand Thief as well. But hey, this now makes more sense. If you know you're drawing a lab partner on turn one, everything makes sense.
Absolutely. For Blyze, the keep was a lot more straightforward. Pretty much everything cheap you want as Priest, but already the wins from him as soon as he sees the Encanter's Flow. That's like, that's not fair. You're not even Spell Mage, but you got the thing. And for TRueBee there, I like that he did not play a Lab Partner on turn one because there's a chance that gets Holy Smited, and he absolutely wants to save that to pair with the Cram Session. And I expect that to be the play here because the Refreshing Spring Water, he doesn't even have the full 4 empty mana crystals to pay off with it, so that can get more value later on.
Obviously, TRueBee must, if it is one of the few times he's been on stream, must avoid the trap of playing at Blyze's speed. Nobody should play at Blyze's speed unless they're used to it. You will start to second guess yourself and do things wrong. If you're a naturally fast player, fine, but it's so easy when your opponent's blasting out moves really fast to copy them. It's like a human instinct you have to fight.
It's like Blyze is Nozdormu built into every deck, and you feel like you have to fend off the pressure to match his pace. But that's absolutely right. It is a real thing, and TRueBee not getting caught up by it. Maybe it's less pressure when you have to do it like not at a land and when the player's directly in front of you, because this turn is already crucial. He could start with Lab Partner and then completely refresh with the Spring Water, and if he picks up a little bit more spell damage to deal with this Shooting Star, then it makes her a very, very clean board clear.
For now, at least, yeah. Obviously, if Mankrik can find Wife very quickly, getting that 10 extra health on board is a big deal for dealing with Mask. It means that the Mage ends up having to use some of the burn on a minion. So Blyze will be in a hurry to get Mankrik down and start sort of going through the deck as quickly as possible to try and find the 310.
And the Encounter Slow is just so nutty here that he still has the mana to fit in the ping. Even though he didn't find immediate spell damage, it is still a very easy clear. Gets down the Phoenix, load that up for later, have the Ruined Orb do plenty of damage when that wakes up. The only worry for TRueBee right now is actually a lack of card draw.
Yeah, and there's another worry now, obviously, with the Ogre coming down. It's going to have to eat some removal. I mean, he could just do nothing, but then the Ogre starts actually killing minions, which is also no fun for you, so...
It could just eat a Fireball here. The awkward thing is that the 2/2 that is then generated, you trade and ping that. I'm trying to see if there's a way to finagle with Ruined Orb and then use the Shooting Star to actually hit 3 minions that will be generated off of the Ogremmancer, but it's awkward because he only has 1 spell damage. I think it is a little bit short.
Yeah, and you're always... everyone, if you haven't played much Hearthstone and you've got some basic mathematical ability, you're just wondering why. Why doesn't he just fireball this? This is so clean. Well, that fireball has to go face. Otherwise, if the priest stays on 30 for a long time, picks up some heals, it becomes so much harder to OTK them. And then if you don't OTK them, or at least bring them down from 20 to 0 or 15 to 0 on turn, the priest can heal for 7 or 12 so often. You're now in trouble to use that fireball.
And Blyze going to get the near guaranteed Ogremmancer, but he gets the 2/2 instead. That is unfortunate. But not in a bad spot. TRueBee needs another Cram Session stat.
And that's not ideal at all.
Not gonna lie, Lorinda, I was thinking about Shooting Star Mask there and just follow up with another Mask, but it doesn't feel like that gets there against Priest. if you have no minion presence but the Phoenix, because they simply have to clear that and then stick an Apotheosis minion, and then you're very sad. But TRueBee has picked up another piece of burn here, which I fully expect will just be shipped to the face. Okay. Maybe not then. He's pinging, which means that the burn down plan is a whole turn slower, but his top deck quality is a lot higher on average. It's really hard to time these things.
And already you can see by not doing it, he's gained an additional 1 point of damage because the renew plus the heal would be 5. But there's only 4 healing available to be healed for Blaze. So effectively done an extra point of damage if you look at it in that kind of strange, convoluted way that I look at things.
I mean, that is one way of looking at it, but every turn I also feel that you leave the Phoenix up and don't play a spell is a potential turn that you missed out on some spell damage. It's a lot of different iterations, but this turn looks very simple. The most expensive Mask of Cthulhu can get played for casual 12 damage, and TRueBee just has a couple more turns for the lethal setup.
Yep, but Blaze just rips the renew. There's Holy Nova in hand, there's healing available. He would really love Xyrella right now to actually get this over with, but as it is, go for the Scorpion, try to find Desperate Prayer, which he does.
And the rally can also just put a lot of health on board to kind of try and eat up second Mask if he's worried about that. However, with Double Prayer, I think it makes a lot more sense just to clear the Phoenix at that point. And then he can rally a bit later, because this is a board where if TRueBee still just goes for Mask of Cthulhu, it's fine, because Blaze has more healing in hand, and then his board gets to stick. And then he can start trying to race TRueBee.
Yep.
Race is a strong term. He's just going to revive a couple 1 attack and 2 attack minions.
That's fine, no. It's just extra health on the board. Obviously, he hasn't got the regular priest safety net of... We even saw Mage Scribe, but like normally Asira just sticks at 4-12, and that's the end of the game because your opponent can't get the 12 mask through. The masks have gone. But Blaze doesn't really have a big board available to him. He has got to survive much more than regular priest, just because he tops out at Orgrimmar.
Right, Blaze with the insta rally there. Not gonna lie, I was thinking about Idol of Yasharaj to actually set up a bona fide race, but we can see Blaze is prioritizing weaving in the hero power every single turn, maximizing the heal he can get, and these small minions on board feel actually quite annoying to TRueBee because Blaze has now seen both of the Masks of Cthulhu, so perfectly timed from Blaze there.
Yeah, and you're scared to leave up the Sethek, but the way it's come out, he's got no real choice. I guess I think you probably... Oh, he does actually kill it. Because that can generate so much extra healing.
Yes. And if it's not healing, it's ways to kill you faster. Oh, the giant Ogremancer! That's gotta be game. TRueBee has a single Fireball and a single Ruined Orb left in his deck. We can already take a look. Mancrick, very far down. And Counterslow doing nothing. And yeah, this is the consistency issue that we were talking about with this deck. If you don't hit the giant Cram Session, a single Refreshing Spring Water just doesn't seem like enough.
And absolutely nothing against TRueBee at all, but many people will not be sad to see Incantus Flow do nothing.
I am definitely not one of those. I'll tell you what's bad though, beyond just most likely being out of this game for TRueBee, is he's most likely out of this year. Of course, the Nosdormu, I love it for Blaze. We talked about how he is the human incarnation of this dragon. What a fitting way to set up a lethal.
Do you happen to know if Blaze plays Battlegrounds? I want to see him play APM Pirates. Just arrows everywhere and pirates falling down the back of the sofa and off the table and all sorts of things.
That would be a sight to behold. I'd have to put the video on 0.5 speed to even keep up on what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely over here. And that's a really bad start for TRueBee, because he does need that Clown Druid now to find a win against not Priest.
Blaze currently 3 off lethal right now. Not very far at all. And even if he just Shadow Word Deaths away this Aegwin, TRueBee has no singular draw that gets him lethal. Oh, Power Infusion is 1 off, I guess? Yeah. Very close.
This is the thing, though. Subtle has to make this point, or Raven, between them have to make this point every week. despite the fact he's playing ridiculously quickly in a one position and throwing cards around, he's still getting the little things right, like playing a Sethek before the Shadow Word Death, which doesn't even matter at this point. So it's not like he's just, you know, throwing cards out there stupidly. He's getting them in the right order. It's just doing it incredibly quickly. It's always a sight to behold. And he's already won 2 of the first 10 Masters Tours, the first 9 Masters Tours.
Yeah.
He's in position to try and win another one, Gia. It's ridiculous.
The consistency is just off the charts. I just find it ironic that the only moment we saw Blyze hesitate in that entire game was not in making a decision where he could possibly lose the game. It was when he had already won, and he's like, wait, how do I style on him the most? Oh wait, I better play the Sethek. And what I loved the most was the 0 hesitation on picking Nozdormu. Yes, it was the biggest minion there, but it was also just so fitting. And the truly bad news here for TRrueBee is that his lineup was built, at least as far as we can tell, to target this priest, and now it's gotten a very handy, easy win. As soon as Blyze had kind of outlasted that first wave of double Mask of Cthulhu and TRrueBee did not hit the card draw, it looked completely easy. And now what does TRrueBee do with Clown Druid? I don't even know what that deck beats if not Priest.
Yeah, me neither, if I'm perfectly honest, and I haven't checked up because on difficult to play weird decks, then sample sizes are pretty small, relevant sample sizes are pretty small, so I'd rather try and make it up as we go than to quote you some number that doesn't make any real sense, to be honest. But it is going to be difficult, and he is going to queue it, so we're going to get to see it. And we saw Baby Bear yesterday get through with a similar lineup, and she seemed to do well against not the priest as well, so maybe it's not as bad as we think it is.
That's fair. She did manage to take a win against Rush Warrior on this deck, if I recall. However, that deck has been banned away from Blyze's side, so that means TRrueBee has to win with this either against Rogue or Mage. Both of those feel like very scary prospects to me because this Clown Druid takes a while to get going. Yes, you can hit the very nutty hands with Overgrowth in the start, Wild Growth, and then you have Lightning Bloom. And as soon as you can get one of these heavy hitter 8-cost cards down, it already feels like you can turn the tide around any board state because of the power of Lake Thresher and Primordial Protector in particular, being able to summon a 10-cost minion. The deck is called Clown Druid, but I feel that the clowns are actually very rarely the win condition for this deck.
Yeah, the win condition is Overgrowth.
Yes.
You play Overgrowth.
Absolutely.
Like most slow Druid decks, you play Overgrowth, you win. You don't play Overgrowth, you don't win. But Mage doesn't even care about the clowns because the turn you play your clowns, the Mage should be in position to just launch everything over those taunts into your face.
Yeah, or Flame Strike them.
Or Flame... Well, they are quite often really big, though, to be fair.
If they're corrupted. I mean, if they play Survival of the Fit, if the Druid has a whole turn to play Survival of the Fittest against Mage and develop nothing else, then they were already winning that game. I'm just going to put that out there.
That's fair. And the problem is the Druid's supposed to stick Moonfang, Teacher's Pet, Twilight Runner, all that stuff, but that just gets devolved into a bunch of 3/3s, and it's like, I don't care about your 3/3s. They're just not scary.
It definitely feels like a tall mountain for TRrueBee to climb, but Baby Bear definitely proved me wrong on how the deck functions yesterday. I did not think this deck had a place in this meta, if not trying to beat Priest, but this definitely feels like it's going to have to prove a lot of people wrong, not just me against Mage.
But it is 6-1, and I imagine the Priest does beat it sometimes. I doubt he's gone 6-1 without some hiccups along the way and having to beat some other decks, because all the Priest has to do, if it is Priest, is find 4 Soul Mirrors, which is hard, which is why the Clown's the favourite, but the Priest can just do that sometimes, along with other ways of winning. So I imagine TRrueBee's been in this spot once or twice and got through it in this tournament already, so let's see if he can do it again. And that looks like a good way to try it.
Yeah, Overgrowth in the opener, you love to see it. The rest of the cards are kind of garbage, though. You would much rather get the beasts off of the guardian animals. Although, in a way, depending on what the board state looks like, if you get the guardian animals and these are not in the pool of your deck anymore, then you can kind of curate it such that you're more likely to get Moonfang. Or, I was going to say Lake Thresher, but 3 beasts in the opener. Yikes.
Yeah. going to be turn 5 before TRueBee can play them, but they are going to be able to block the mask at least and sort of deal with the Apexis roughly as well.
Roughly.
On how it goes, yeah. At least slow Blythe down, at least on the board. I don't think you ever slow down his playing speed.
That is simply not possible. The one welcome side for TRueBee is the lack of Incanter slow this early on. But, you know, Blythe just has damage, damage, damage. He might not necessarily even need the flow, which is a very rare outcome for Mage. But finally, TRueBee gets the overgrowth down. Oh no, another beast drawn. And he can still only just play 1 minion per turn, I guess, plus Broom. He might even immediately Broom to get draws off of the Twilight Runner.
Yeah, I think a couple of minions in the opener. Obviously, you wanted the guardian animals, as you said, but a couple of beasts was okay to back it up. But drawing all of them like this, you're going to waste so much mana.
Yeah, and because there was Apexis Blast played, it does have to be Thresher here instead of the Twilight Runner. I completely agree. It's really nice that he can save so much health on it because there was a small minion left up. But for Blythe, just going to look for, I don't know, Netherwind Portal here? Counterspell is very big because he's coming up on 8 mana as well. You're trying to block Guardian Animals.
I was trying to see where the mouse went, but he just pressed buttons, yeah. And Survival's getting close as well, so Counterspell can be as well.
Oh, does TRueBee go for it?
Are there any left?
He has Moonfang and I believe the other Lake Fresher.
Sure, I can go with that.
But that's it.
Yep.
Okay, he tests first. I don't think it's a disaster to test here because he can still just play a Twilight Runner straight up. That seems fine. Mirror Entity is the scary one, so maybe you do just play Teacher's Pet instead because giving Mage Draw where they don't necessarily have it to begin with is also a very scary prospect.
Absolutely, yeah. And you also want your worst one first. You don't want Devolving Missiles to ruin it. So yeah, you don't want the Mage to copy it. You don't want your stuff to get devolved.
Yes.
This is still more than you want to happen. The perfect 2 secrets.
For Blythe, oh okay, I was looking at ping on the Broom first to try and get the Devolve to be more cooperative, and yeah, it has missed on the Teacher's Pet now. If he is not pinging first, I assume he wanted to allocate the mana for just Spellnose, but even now it feels like he still just has this 2 mana remaining and the Murloc on the board, so that did not feel like the greatest order to me.
And the turn didn't end well either way.
Yeah.
The Devolves went against him, and the Teacher's Pet was pretty rude to him as well. So suddenly, TRueBee in position where he could actually win this game. Yeah. Maybe.
Oh, that's a big deal. The Porcupine, if this lands one of its, or even both in a very lucky world, Death Rattles on the Moonfang, that means the Flame Strike that Blythe was trying to set up for next turn can actually clear the entire board. If it doesn't touch the Moonfang, though, then it will stick around after the Flame Strike. Still think it has to be Flame Strike, though.
Yeah, and the 6/6 sticks around as well. And Blythe's definitely got an issue here. And if this Druid goes through, we're kind of back on levels in a way, with the Priest and the Druid kind of both getting out of there.
Is this Druid just the nuts? Have I been underestimating it that much? I mean,
you may have underestimated it slightly. It's an okay deck when it draws Overgrowth, which this did.
Fair. Okay, this has to be the greatest mask ever. It has to kill both of the Twilight Runners. If even one sticks around, I guess not completely bad for Blythe, but it is looking really scary. He's just about to die after a couple hits.
He is, but it's... Yeah, you want better than 3/0 drops in your hand, which is what TRueBee now has.
Fair. He's even starting with the draw, which makes me think he's thinking about keeping the stealth completely, because I'm not sure what he would play immediately after just a Wild Growth that he wouldn't play like based off the Tiger attacking first. For example, if he drew Survival of the Fittest, he wouldn't be able to play that with Wild Growth.
Moontouch Amulet, basically the perfect card there. Just sorting out both of the issues that he has in one go. How do I do more damage and how do I take less damage? I know, Moontouch Amulet. Blythe now needs to end this game here.
Or discover Ice Barrier. He can survive against the Druid hero power at least. Bringwater just seems so insane for Blyze in particular. Because he has so much time to work with. Gets the barrier, that's huge. Gets a way to clear the Panther as well. And the game continues. No more beasts in the deck, so this Guardian Animals is doing a whole lot of nothing for TRrueBee. He can Vate Clown for 3 clowns.
Send in the clowns. You've seen a Flame Strike. There's only one Flame Strike in the deck.
If there's Entity on the other side, it will just be a single 4/4. TRrueBee is, I think, forced to play the clown here. He could start Hero Power, and if he sees that it is indeed Ice Barrier, then he can Lightning Bloom clowns. Thing is, there's just no burst in this deck. It has to come from attack damage, so he has to get through the Ice Barrier. Oh, that is a big deal.
That's the end of the Fiesta.
The Shooting Star is for the complete clear with Combustion as well. This is not a board you want to devolve because they very likely will just get bigger if they are hit by missiles.
Yep. Absolutely.
So the Shooting Star Combustion is just so insane here. Gets to even Poveling Book down as well. I think Blyze is about to get that achievement about winning at 1 HP, except it's not in Battlegrounds.
That's a fair point. Yeah. What's even going on?
I don't even know what he can get at this point.
More
the deck just doesn't. Okay, Primordial. Yeah, that'll summon him a 10-drop because of the survival of the fittest. Ordresh, not quite good enough. Wait, he's actually 1 off, right, with the Apexis? Head ping.
7, 8, 9, 13. Yep, 1 off lethal.
And so we gotta take a look at what's left in Blyze's deck. There's still the double fireballs, if I'm not mistaken. And so he can Arcane Intellect, and if he hits one of those, that's lethal with the ping.
Or he
the spell damage.
He's the 10-10 and just make a massive board, so...
Yeah.
He goes for the lethal. It's Blyze, of course he does.
I mean, if he doesn't hit Fireball, he could just hit Brain Freeze, which is a cheaper version of the Deep Freeze in this situation. And that is going to be the game. That was really tight at the end there, Lauren. I mean, 1 HP, and he had to hit Ice Barrier to survive. And it turned out that TRrueBee didn't even test for it in the end. Like, from TRrueBee's perspective, that could have still been... could it have still been a bluff at that point? Because he never attacked a minion, right? So it could have still have been like Oasis ally bluff, I think.
Yeah, possibly. I'm going to go with possibly on that one. I think you're right. But maybe he'd worked it out from the way the other two worked. But either way, 2-0 down. And it turns out that the Clown Druid couldn't even get it done with the Overgrowth start, which, you know...
does not bode well for the deck, huh? And
it drew
notably,
terribly, though. Let's be honest. Okay, Overgrowth is what you want, but everything else was really bad.
To be fair, though, Blyze didn't even have early Encander's Flow. This is like not the super nutty Mage draw either. And so, obviously, I don't think TRrueBee brought this deck for this matchup. He brought it for Priest, and it got very close towards the end there, but he now has to run it up against Rogue with not only this deck, but also that spell damage Mage, and whatever else his last deck is.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. He has the Druid, the Warrior, and the Mage all taking on the Rogue. Well, the Warrior beats Rogue 100% of the time, with no questions asked. Very black and white. Rogue has never won that game in the history of Hearthstone. So that's one of them done. The Mage will beat the Rogue pretty often. So
yeah,
it might come down to Clowns versus Rogue. It might still come down to it.
That would be pretty funny. TRrueBee also still has his Rush Warrior. to contend with, which I feel has a decent matchup versus Rogue. So maybe this could be at least 2 of the 3 decks soft targeting Rogue, and then the Druid has a question mark matchup against the Rogue, because you're absolutely right, there is just not enough data about Clown Druid out there. But my instincts say it probably gets run over by Jandice / Mankrik Kazaka stuff going on in the early game, and very notably the Cult Neophytes. That is huge to shut down Overgrowth / Guardian animals.
Yeah, we've seen Neophytes because of the nature of how most people's lineups have been, just being played on curve, because that's kind of their best use. But must not forget they can be used in a more strategical way, like you just described, blocking Overgrowth, blocking survivals, that sort of thing. You don't have to just put it on the board as a 3/2 tempo minion every single time.
And in the slot that we tend to see players mess around with, Ogremancer / Vanessa Van Cleef, Blyze does have the Vanessa, but he also has 1 copy of Broomstick. So I'm not actually sure what he has cut to make room for that. I will get back to you a little bit later, because he still has the double Cult Neophyte, double Foxy Fraud, which I'm very, very used to seeing. And I don't feel that the Vanessa is going to be particularly useful in this matchup, and the Broomstick for that matter, because when Rogue has to get in a position where they need to come back on board, I'm not necessarily sure if a board of a bunch of 3 and 2 attack minions is going to be enough to hit the size of minions such as Lake Thresher and possibly even the Clowns. So I don't know if the Broomstick is what Blyze really wants for this matchup. However, that Neophyte is going to be really clutch, and he holds onto it.
I feel like Blyze has done this before, where you look at his list, he's like, yep, he's got 33 casts, because I can't see what's missing either. I'm just staring at the list like, something's not in there that's really obvious, and I can't spot it. Nope.
Tenwu, he doesn't have Tenwu. Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, cool, good spot.
Which means he doesn't have access to like the Giga Alexstrasza combo, but hardly anyone can pull that off these days. And I was going to say, the Neophyte is going to come in clutch for a certain timing, but the fact that Blyze picked up no alternative minions for early pressure has led him to play it on turn 1, which is not a big deal for TRrueBee. I don't think he was going to coin Wild Growth with this hand anyway, so the Neophyte is pretty much just a 3/2.
Yeah, when someone's playing Passage on turn 3 as well, you're aware that something's about to go. But he's got Shadow Step, of course he has. Now he can bounce it, and now you can't play your Wild Growth.
Yeah, that's big. And he can also just Prize Plunderer first to get that minion on board if he likes. It looks like he pressed the dagger button though. Again, I'm not necessarily sure if he would want the Prize Plunderer as a potential draw, because off the top of his deck, not helping right now, but later on it could be huge in combination with a field contact turn. And that's what makes Rogue really hard to pilot, in my opinion, is trying to balance the odds and figure out whether you're okay with drawing combo pieces without the activator.
Yeah, that Tenwu you mentioned that is missing might turn out to be a reasonable sized deal here, if it shuts Blyze from, getting the combo finish down at the end. I don't think it'll matter, but a card that he wishes he had in this particular matchup. But then who plays Clowns, honestly?
Fair.
Oh no!
Oh, that's big. Another Shadow Step. Using it right here means that he's out of Shadow Steps for Jandice, but again, the Jandice is coming down so late, he hasn't hit Octobot, so the curve has had to just be the single Neophyte taking on the world by herself. Oh man.
Finally gets the Wild Growth cast, but so slow. Yeah, the Neophyte is just doing everything.
Looking for big money here. Mankrik, Kazakus, you'll take a swindle. Okay, Octobot can still get some work done.
One Thief as well might just be handy, but I think you're right. I think the Octobot's the more important.
Yeah. It can put the Alexstrasza down by 1 mana, which is a big deal, because as it turns out, Blyze has just kind of been beating up on TRrueBee with a singular minion. And Blyze already used 1 Wicked Stab in order to activate the Swindle, so in terms of burst, it's coming up a little bit short, but TRrueBee is going to get his first GA down. Both Lake Threshers, both Twilight Runners available. That's all the draw he ever needs, and the Strongman can come down immediately. Yeah, I don't think Blyze can get this one done. Has to be an amazing Jandice.
Yeah, this looks rough. Trying to beat down even a slow deck with 1-3-2, even if it is slowing your opponent down, is it's not going to get you there very fast, is it?
Yep. I think he doesn't even have to attack the Neophyte necessarily. If Blaze wants to step that, that's fine. TRrueBee doesn't even necessarily need the spells in the hand right now. He could just go for a Lake Thrasher type of turn. In the end, he is taking the trade, and he gets a usage for his coin anyway, so no mana wasted. Innervate. Although Lunar Eclipse doesn't really fit with his hand that great, does it?
Innervate just seems like he's got a lot of that going on, but okay, he can get the survival down.
Yep, he can just threaten a counter lethal.
Yeah.
Board state is so bad that XBlyzes has opted for not Jandice on turn 6. That's how you know Rogue's in a bad spot.
It's weird, isn't it? Because when Rogue's in a bad spot that's so bad, sometimes it becomes Jandice again, because you go through the other side and like, now I need to roll 2 elementals. But yeah, for now he's in a pretty grim spot, so can't afford to just not Jandice.
Well, it is a very mediocre board from XBlyzes. TRrueBee has now seen both the Wicked Stabs, so he knows the burst is pretty much exclusively coming from Alexstrasza plus Wand Thief Discovers, and I guess Kazakas for the Golem into board buffs, all of which are just not even likely to be in XBlyzes' hand at the moment. He is starved for resources. So I don't think TRrueBee has to overreact. He can simply Lightning Bloom into the Lake Thrasher. It just trades well with this board.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. He has to just be careful because he's almost won this game, so he'll be thinking like along the lines of, okay, which golems beat me, what Jandice rolls beat me, because not much else is going to beat him right now.
Moonfang also, I mean, it can be killed by this board, but it takes literally all of XBlyzes' minions going in. This is the window though. Jandice can potentially pull this back. Ooh, high quality stuff.
What a surprise! Turns out 5 drops are ridiculous. Come on, Azure Drake, come back.
Puts the illusion on the golem as well. Sure. I don't think he wants all the totems. I find that the totems can actually mess with Rogue's board space if he does get a top deck activator for the field contact turn. You want to have as many places for room for Battlecry minions as possible.
I didn't like that Moonfang last night. It felt like it was very slow.
I also preferred the Lake Thrasher because it could kill multiple minions at once.
Right.
And surprisingly, XBlyzes is very much back in this. Moon-touched Amulet gonna give TRrueBee a little bit more breathing room.
But is it enough? Because with Alex in hand and this big board, I'm a little bit confused as to why we're Moonfanging.
Well, the Moonfang with the taunt is definitely a big deal because XBlyzes has to get through it the hard way with 3 trades or a dagger and 2 trades or some combination of brain freeze, that type of thing. But TRrueBee, I think, is even considering sending the Moonfang that he currently has to the face, but I don't think it sets up any break for him to immediately win because he knows his taunted Moonfang is going to die next turn.
I guess he's seen both passages. I'm just concerned that it's very easy to take down a Moonfang if you don't mind taking a bit of base damage with Rogue.
Totem Goliath is so clutch. It gave him another 1/1, which means he can push another 3 damage to face with the Foxy Fraud.
That's what he does, and now with Alex in hand, Feral Rage.
He needs Broom. TRrueBee needs Broom to clear the board. Is that even enough? I don't think it is. And then the Feral Rage to heal, it just doesn't get there. XBlyzes has done it.
XBlyzes has done it with a neophyte and a prayer. And he knows he's done it. He's celebrating, going to 7-1 for the millionth time that XBlyzes, we only had 10 tournaments, has just cruised through a field of highly trained professional players. It's ridiculous.
This was insane. It felt like Rogue was in a terrible spot that turn where he had to spend basically all of his resources, both the stabs, double secret passage, was it? To scramble to find a way to deal with the first couple minions from TRueBee. But maybe there was a turn, I have to go back and watch the VOD. There was one turning point for TRueBee where everything went a little bit wrong. I'm not sure if it's the turn where, the turn before he ended up playing the first Moonfang or the turn of the Moonfang itself. Because against this, double Twilight Runners, insane board presence, and all the resources in the world, even the free strongman, I'm still just in disbelief how Blyze managed to pull this one back. Really impressive stuff.
I mean, I'm not a Clown Druid player, so I could definitely be wrong here, but it feels to me like you're not holding off Rogue, even one that's trying to top deck you, with a 6-3 Taunty Moonfang. It just doesn't feel like Rogue worries. He's going to draw some cards, he's going to find a way to ping it a couple of times, he's got a dagger. Maybe I'm wrong, I've been wrong before many